Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. We'll go ahead and get started for today's guest, or with today's guest. And our first question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Sean, for having me on. So I am the founder of Nationwide Automation LLC. So my past experience has been, ever since I was, 12 years old, I was creating websites for myself. Going through college, I was creating websites for a music promotion company that I had as an internship through college. And I have a digital media management marketing degree from Columbia College Chicago here. And most recently, I guess over the past few years, I've had my own kind of, e-commerce businesses and things like that. And due to COVID in March, I actually founded a digital marketing agency, which specializes in helping businesses grow with lead generation services, websites, really you name it, anything digital, whether that's, creating a video, which I always recommend every business have a video, at least a 30 to 60 second video, photoshopping, memes for posting on social media. Anything that goes along with growth and exposure for a business is really what I do.
Awesome. Well, question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
So I feel that it's important to have a team because, you can do so many things on your own. You can only be good or be competent in so many things. And when you have a team, you have those other people that are able to fill those gaps for you. You might have someone that's really good at making phone calls or closing the deal, in terms of a sales team. I've managed a lot of sales teams in the past. And if you have those different kind of aspects, you could kind of all kind of work with each other to work with each other's strengths and weaknesses. We could always improve weaknesses, and strengths are always going to be there. So we can kind of use those to our advantage on a sales team, especially. And if you have a more of an inside team, whether that's operational or marketing and things like that, it's also very important because say you have 5 people on a marketing team, and one person's really good at social media, one person's really good at design, maybe not so good with customer interaction or people interaction, responding communication wise. You have a person that can do that right. And then you have a leader that's kind of good at a lot of stuff, but maybe not proficient or an expert at each individual thing, but they can kind of oversee and make sure that the quality is always going to be there.
Those are great comments about how to really build a team. I like that a lot. Thank you. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts.
So in engagement, I work on both sides. So engagement from a team as well as engagement from customers is important, right? Especially with social media and websites and things like that, it really starts with understanding your customer on the customer side. So understanding what their needs are, what motivates them, to either walk in your store or visit your website. And the same thing with customers, or not customers, with employees. You have to understand what motivates them, So I did a lot of hiring of sales teams and things like that across the country. And everybody has something different. Maybe it's a shiny new car, or maybe it's just to send their kids to karate class. It's just basic things like that. And you have to get to know somebody for them to kind of spill the beans on what those motivating factors are. And maybe it's just something that maybe someone doesn't feel comfortable about sharing, but eventually you get to know them and you get them comfortable and you really understand them as a person. And then you feed into those types of motivators, because if someone's motivator is maybe to make a couple $100 a week, maybe not to make thousands, and you're throwing all these contests out there for all these different types of things, but it doesn't really appeal to them and they're not going to work towards those goals because it's not something that they're motivated by, or that's not really aligned with their goals. So aligning yourself with their goals, understanding them as a person, and like I said, understanding customers as well. That's important for engagement on a team, and just knowing those people as people.
You really explained well the importance of that alignment, as well as how to recognize each person individually. That is such an important part of engagement. I really appreciate you pointing those things out. Question number 4, what other piece of advice would you give to a leader of a team?
So one of my kind of go-to strategies, and people always heard me say it in the past, was lead from the front. So you always want to lead from the front. I'm not going to tell my team to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. You lead by example, and that's positivity and communication as well. So positive reinforcement, it's kind of a fine balance. There is going to be negative things that you need to address, but it's pointing out the positive and then addressing the negative as opportunities, because those are going to be weaknesses. And really, if there are weaknesses that you identify, maybe you might not identify it on the surface, but if you partner up with them, say, because I have a lot of sales experience, partnering up with that sales rep or that salesperson out in the field and kind of identifying those things that maybe they don't see themselves and saying, hey, I noticed this. This is an opportunity. See how I do it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to reinforce those positive things. Hey, I really like how, you introduced yourself. You went for the close. But these are some areas of opportunity that I see. Maybe next time, let's try it. Or if you're not out there with me next time, or maybe get me on the phone, just so we can reinforce those things that maybe you're not doing. And just kind of following up on those things after the fact to make sure that they understand, exactly what the shortfalls are and that they're willing to work on improving them.
Great insights. Great insights. Well, question number 5, what other successful leaders of teams, such as yourself, would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence on your life?
So, I mean, I've had a lot of different leaders over the past, I'd say 15 to 20 years. And a lot of them are not very good, but at the same time, I've learned things from the good leaders and from the bad leaders. Nobody's perfect, of course. There's a lot of, I would say, out of the maybe 10 or so managers or leaders that I've had in the past, I probably had 2 or 3 that were great. And taking those, a lot of the things that I do as a leader, I incorporate those things that I liked what they did. And then on the bad side, not doing those things that they did. And then maybe there was some positive there too. Maybe there was some aspects of the way they, ran their team on a daily basis that are like, okay, I like the structure. Maybe I didn't like the micromanagement piece of it, but I did like the structure that they put in every day, whatever that was. So just taking those tidbits. I could provide you specific names after the call if you want specific people to reach out to, but I'd see, unfortunately, there are a lot of bad leaders out there, and I think the good leaders are few and far between.
And you're right. And research shows that we have a continuing problem with people being promoted into positions of responsibility and leadership and then not receiving good training as a result. And that's an ongoing problem that needs to be addressed. Patrick, tell us a little bit more about your first job. I know you mentioned a little bit ago that for as long as you can remember, you've been doing websites and whatnot. Was that something you did right out of the chute there, or did you have other jobs that you'd like to share with us about?
Yeah, so not right out of the womb, I wasn't making websites, but early on, I was doing it. So, I would say my first ever actual paying job was I worked at McDonald's when I was 14 years old. My mother wanted, my mother said I liked nice things, and she was sick of buying me stuff all the time. She said, you got to go to work. You got to get a job. And I don't think that you can work that young anymore. I think the laws have changed or whatever, but I was willing to work, and I was happy to do it. And I think it's important for young people today to get out there in the workforce and learn and work those crappy jobs, whether it's retail, customer service, food service. Just, expose yourself to that and expose yourself to the general public and see how the general public treats people. Because I think, not only did my mother instill, a lot of manners and things when I was growing up, I'm very polite with people just in general. But I think dealing with the general public, I'm very, very cordial and very polite to anyone that I interact with in a service capacity, and I've been in sales for a long time. And unfortunately, it's kind of a dying skill set. I do encourage people to work early on, and I've been working ever since.
You're absolutely right. It is a dying art. And I do agree completely that you learn a lot about how to interact with people when you're in those service industries and needing to be in a position where you need to take the attitude, the customer is always right, even when you have a very different opinion. So,
Yeah, exactly. You can't argue with them.
right, right. That's not an option. Well, Patrick, thank you for sharing your experiences with us this morning and your
Thank
insight.
you.
Tell us a little bit more. How can people find you?
So you can find me on my website, nationwideautomation.com. You could also find me on Facebook on my business page, facebook.com/nationwide-automation. Same thing with LinkedIn. You can find my personal profile, Patrick Brouillette, or you can find my business page on LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/nationwideautomation.
Great. Thank you. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. And for more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.